If you're someone who cares about Illinois' history, about Illinois' culture, and about Illinois' ecology, then you owe it to yourself to visit Cairo. But that's not an easy thing to do. If you're planning on staying overnight, unless you know somebody, you're going to have to stay outside of town because the hotels and the motels closed years ago. And if you're planning on picnicking in Defiance State Park, which is a beautiful park right at the confluence of the Ohio and the Mississippi rivers, you're going to need to buy your food on the road because Cairo's last grocery store closed in 2015, and since then, it's been a food desert. It's easy to understand why people here are frustrated by the decline and by the lack of interest that the rest of the state has shown towards Cairo's plight. I can't think of another place in Illinois that was written about by Charles Dickens, Mark Twain, Barack Obama, and Neil Gaiman. Cairo was a stop on the Chitlin Circuit, meaning it had an incredible influence on the development of blues music and everything that came after it. Like Galena, Cairo has history with Ulysses S. Grant, who used Cairo as a base of operations to launch his offensive into the South. And Cairo was also the home of the ironclad ships, who would port back here to repair and then set out again. Cairo is also immensely significant in Illinois' struggle for civil rights. We often think of Jim Crow laws as something that happened just in the South, but segregation was a part of daily life here in Cairo through the 1960s as well. Thanks to coordinated efforts between activists and lawyers in Chicago and in Cairo, Cairo held massive protests that resonated both through the state of Illinois and the entire South.
Shots have been fired into a town landmark, a statue, and into black homes and businesses, into the office of a group of civil rights attorneys.
Cairo is also immensely environmentally significant because it sits right at the confluence of the Ohio and the Mississippi rivers, two of the biggest rivers in the nation, which makes that confluence one of the largest in the world. Cairo is also in the middle of a floodplain, but the city actually hasn't flooded for 160 years, ever since the levees were first built, making it one of the most successful levee systems in the United States. Cairo has history, culture, and ecology to rival any other place in Illinois. So why hasn't it received the attention or the investment that these other towns have? Ben Carson said that Cairo is a dying community. That's not entirely true because communities don't really die, they're abandoned. First, they're abandoned by industry, then they're abandoned by government, and finally they're abandoned by people. And Cairo's people are still holding on. Cairo's been given a reputation as a ghost town, which clearly isn't true. There are still a lot of people here. But given the recent housing crisis that dislocated 400 Cairo members, that population is getting smaller all the time. But the people who are here, and the people who have stayed on, still love Cairo and have high hopes for its future and for what this town is and could be. We talked to a local historian who made sure to point out that a lot of people will blame Cairo's decline on its history of racial struggles, and that's a problem. Because one, it implicitly blames the civil rights activists who were decried as agitators in their time, and also it just ignores decades of decline that had began years before those protests even started, just due to things like changing business practices on the Mississippi River and trains and everything else. So, noted.